Hey there everybody, this is TJ for skullbanger.net. It's been a while since I've got to do a board game review. I've been very busy over the summer with the heavy metal festivals and stuff, but I do like to try on occasion to play board games that are horror themed and so on. And when I do that, I like to try to do a review. So there's a relatively new game that's out. It's called Eldritch Horror from Fantasy Flight Games. And this mess you see in front of me on the table is that game, Eldritch Horror. Now I've played several games from this company, Fantasy Flight, and they deal a lot in the H.P. Lovecraft mythos. The Cthulhu, for anybody that knows H.P. Lovecraft, you know, the Cthulhu stuff, all that, the insanity and stuff like that. So they've been doing that for at least 6, 7, 8 years, maybe 10 or so. And I've bought many of their products that's been based on the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, as I'm a fan of his work. And I've had a very love-hate relationship with some of their products and how they make their games. And but I was kind of excited for this one, and I'll get into some of the pros and cons here in just a moment after I give an overview of the game. And I'll let you know if I think it's worth your time or not. Okay, so this is basically the game board. This is from a game I tried to play yesterday, so it's a little messy, but I think it's accurate into what you're going to see as you play Eldritch Horror. It's going to have stuff come out everywhere. But that's part of the game, and I would say that can be a little of a con to the game, but otherwise it's okay. You can just you'll have a lot of cleanup. But anyway, let's get into the mechanics of the game and what goes on. Basically, the game revolves around one of 4 ancient evil ones that have come to Earth millions of years ago and are now looking to awaken and come to destroy the world. Well, you, as a player, are an investigator, one of several that come with the game. This is a guy, he's a kind of like an Indiana Jones guy. But the players pick several different investigators. This lady, she's a spy from Russia. The other guy, like I said, was an Indiana Jones guy. So you're one of the few select that knows what is happening in the world, and you're trying to stop it. You have a doom tracker up here that, depending on who you're fighting, this guy Shub Niggurath, he starts the doom tracker on 13. When this hits 0, he wakes up, and you have to deal with that. You try to keep that from happening. So the game goes in 3 phases. You have an action phase, an encounter phase, and a mythos phase. The action phase, each investigator gets 2 actions, which involves a movement. You can rest to get back health and sanity. You can try to buy things from the store. And you can buy a ticket to go an extra space on your turn. And there's some other things. Some cards give you actions and so on. So basically your first phase is the action phase where you do actions and stuff. The next phase, the encounter phase, revolves around the location that you are in. Now this is the phase that I think the game really shines, as this is where you get a lot of your story and the meat and the atmosphere. Wherever you are at, you'll be dealing with the location, such as here's the sea, here's the wilderness, and here's a city. Now some cities are specific areas, such as the South American city, which I will not be able to pronounce right. I'm sorry, my southern accent is bad, but Buenos Aires. Okay, so there's cards that represent these cities, such as this one right here. You flip it over when you encounter that spot, and there's the city. You have San Francisco and Arkham. And they're geographically dependent. So you have other cities over here that's a completely different deck. London, Rome, and Istanbul, Sydney, Tokyo, and Shanghai. And then you have other places specifically for this little guy. He is an expedition marker. That's a separate encounter entirely. You have clue markers. Okay, you can land on them and encounter a clue card based on the evil one you're trying to stop. So this game, I think, is great, and the variety of the different types of things you can encounter, immersing yourself in that story, and so on. I think this phase, the encounter phase, is fantastic. I think it's really fun. It's very immersive. So you're trying to go around the globe with your investigator and find out how to stop this guy. To do this, each one of these evil ones have a specific mystery you have to solve. They have 4 mystery cards. For an investigator or investigators to win this game, you have to solve 3 mysteries. And this one, you know, each mystery will tell you what you have to do to solve it before you can go on to the next one. This one, Shub-Niggurath has one of his children spawn out in the Amazon. You have to go kill him. Once you do that, you get to move on to your next mystery phase. So, that's what you've got to do to try to figure out how to stop this guy. Well, after you do your action phase and your encounter phase, you do the Mythos Phase. The Mythos Phase is usually where a lot of bad stuff happens for the benefit of the bad guy. And they involve these weird madness-inducing cards, and they have a condition on the back that involves certain things that happen on the Mythos Phase and then an event. So this one, you have an omen track up here at the top right of the board, which, let's see if I can, I don't know if you can see it, but it's at the top right of the board. It's got 4 symbols it spins around and is responsible for what happens at certain gates that spawn in the in cities and so on. You have these gate tokens, and they can spawn later on and so on like that. And they spawn monsters out of them. You have a symbol here that represents a monster surge, and that represents monsters that come out at each gate corresponding to the symbol up here on this omen cycle. And then you have this that represents clues that spawn. Now there's other symbols that's on the card that's not on this one. Well, that turned out to be the same thing. But this one, for example, omen track moves, a reckoning, which is always bad usually. A reckoning comes out and monsters get to do things, the bad guy gets to do things, usually it's awful. And this right here represents a gate that will spawn in a city and a monster comes out. And the city is on the back side in their symbol. So that's what happens in the Mythos Phase. So after all that happens, you go back to the action phase if you're still alive. And you go through it all again until you solve 3 mysteries, or the Doom Tracker hits 0 and the bad guy wakes up and either destroys the world or you try to have a chance to fight him, which usually that's not good. But that's a basic overview. I didn't get into all of it because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of rules, but yet they're easy rules. And that's Eldritch Horror. Okay, so that was the overview of the game. That's basically how it works. I didn't go into every detail as the game can be very intensive in terms of some of the rules. But so here's my thoughts on the game. I do like Eldritch Horror. I think it's a vast improvement, vast improvement over Arkham Horror and Mansions of Madness. And I say this for the sole reason of setup time is greatly reduced as compared to those previous games. And also it's a little bit easier to play the game in terms of how it flows. Those are the 2 biggest pros to this game. Another pro is that I think it's easier to get into the story of what's going on in this game as you're traveling around the world and trying to stop this evil madness and evil monster and creatures that are trying to destroy what's going on. That being said, the game still has some of the problems and issues I think that plague some Fantasy Flight games, and especially the Arkham Horror series type of games and the H.P. Lovecraft things. Fantasy Flight has been very guilty of incorporating a rule into a game that propagates more stuff that comes down on the board, that propagates more stuff that comes down on the board, and rule. The game does have that. However, it is easier to manage and you can play it. The only caveat is the more players you get to play this game, you can get a game that'll last 4 or 5 hours. The most fun I had with the game was when I was either playing it solo, which the game is designed, you can play it solo. To me, that 1 player, 2 players, as I played it with 2 players, you can get through a game of 2 players in maybe 2 hours, which I think is a good time. Played with 4 players, did not finish. Didn't get to play it with 3. I think 3 is probably doable, but this is not a game I would recommend with a big group of people, even though it's designed to play with a large amount of people. But unless you're ready to set aside a a block of day almost, maybe a 8-hour work day. It might not be that bad, but you're going to be spending, if you got 6 players, 5 players, 7 players, you're going to spend 4 or 5 hours probably guaranteed on this game. And to me, that's not fun. Now, there's people out there that like that. The game's got great quality in the story and what you do. All that's great. But if you're not looking to spend a large amount of time playing this game, you need to go away. Unless you're wanting to play it by yourself or with 2 people, or maybe 3. And it can flow kind of fast that way. In that regard, thumbs up. I recommend Eldritch Horror. It's a vast improvement. Fantasy Flight, you did a good job on all that stuff compared to Arkham Horror, which I thought was an overrated piece of crap, and still think it is. But I think Eldritch Horror is their best game to date for H.P. Lovecraft themed games. So as long as you're aware of the cons here and you're okay with that, you can't go wrong with this game. 2 thumbs up for Eldritch Horror.